there. So that's live, but it doesn't show. Oh, here it is. Okay, so we can close. Everything's live. And we are live already. Let me start recording.
Yeah.
There, start recording. Very good. Paul Zolman, we're just excited for this day to see that here we are celebrating the launch, not just of your book and your ebook, but your audiobook. And that's really, really cool. How does it feel to be a published author and be able to have it in so many different formats?
It's been such a great learning process. I've enjoyed the journey, and I think I'd do it again.
Well, good. That's awesome. That's awesome. And so we wanted to have this interview, and we'll have the links, and we'll show the links below to pick up a copy for yourself if you're listening live. And we will also have this out as a recording. Tell us a little bit about you, Paul, and what you do.
Actually, I've been in the financial sector for quite some time. I've been a CFO of a public company. Now I do merchant services. I set up businesses so they can take credit card as payment. But all along the way, I've had just little hints in my life. You get to the point of life that you'll have a hint of this or a hint of that. Maybe you should take this road. Maybe you should take that road. And the road for me has been away from anger and more into the loving side of the spectrum. And I look at anger and as one side of the spectrum, love as the other side of the spectrum, and trying to run away from anger and run toward love.
That's, for those of us that have gone through some really tough times, sometimes that's difficult to do, but the rewards for doing so are so really, really, truly amazing.
It's true. If your tongue is used to being out of control, it's hard to rein it back in.
Right.
It's hard. It's like it has no brakes. It won't stop. And that is really difficult to apply the brakes.
That's interesting. So I know that God uses trials and unexpected circumstances to get our attention and really invite us into the life that He's planned for us. Can you describe a time in your life where you had to overcome a disruption to get where you are today?
Yeah, there's been several times. I thought that I was done being angry, and I was introduced, taking a lady about a dozen years ago, taking a lady to my big brother for big brother approval. And at that time, we'd been dating for quite some time. It got to be a little bit serious, so this was a big deal. As soon as I walked in the house, my sister-in-law pulled this lady aside within earshot and said, the only emotion that the Zolman family learned growing up was anger. At first, I denied it. Then it made me mad. And then I thought, that's a perfect opportunity. I thought this is a great time to change that perception. So I started reading the color code and the 5 love languages, and I kind of settled in on the 5 love languages principles. The applications that Dr. Gary Chapman had for that book, just, I was single. It really didn't apply to me. I mean, I had someone that I was dating, but it really didn't apply to me. What I perceived from the book, and I read it 4 or 5 times, is that if I guess what love language you are, Becky, or if I guessed anybody's love language and catered to that, then we're going to be buddies. To me, that's really not love. That's more of a manipulation. So that really just graded me the wrong way. That did not work for me. And I'm a bad guesser, really a bad guesser.
and many of us are.
So and the second application that Dr. Chapman has is that, well, if you take this survey and then you can discover what your own primary love language is, then what? What do you do? Advertise? Hello, I'm Gifts. What do you have for me today? I mean, it's a little bit awkward, really a lot awkward. And so that didn't work for me either. So I thought, you know what? I took those principles, the 5 love language principles, and thought, I'm trying to figure out what Jesus does. Did Jesus do each one of those 5 love languages. And as I reconciled it, he touched, he had the gifts of the Spirit, he spent time with people, he served, obviously, and obviously we love his words, the
Right.
words of Jesus. So all 5 love languages reconcile to the life of Jesus Christ. So I thought, that's what I want. I want something like that, to be able to know all 5 love languages, which even after reading the book 4 or 5 times, I could not spit them out, just like I just did. I could not regurgitate what are the 5 love languages. So I thought, I've got to develop a way that I can bring them into my heart, into me personally. And so I thought, you know what, I liked games as a kid. Maybe I could make this a game. And so I contacted Dr. Chapman, asked him if they were licensing the icons that they had for each one of the love languages. And they said no. The icons they had were from 1992 when the book was first published. And, you know, they were old. They were just dated. And so I was pretty excited I could make my own icons. I went to a copyright attorney here in town, and intellectual property attorney. He said that theory is not copyrightable. So the theory of the 5 love languages is not copyrightable. Application is.
Wow, that's amazing.
So I could make it a game, and I did make it a game. I created a die, I made my own icons, created a die, put it on the die, and so now there's just two instructions. You roll the die every day. That's the love language you practice all day that day, all day, to everyone. And so as I've done that over the last 8 years, that really, back to your question, Becky, that really has been one of those times that my direction has shifted dramatically. It's a paradigm shift, so to speak, that it moved from even thinking about anger to what can I love about that person? What's good about that person? Instead of what's bad about that person, what's wrong with that person, what mistakes that person's made, what kind of judgment can I pass on that person, which the media is really good at casting judgment or publishing bad news. Love doesn't sell that much.
No, that's right. And that's sad. But that's what it is.
It is very sad, but I didn't want that in my life. So as I'm thinking all day long, I remember their icon, remember what I'm focused on today. And then as I meet people, I'm thinking, can I serve that person, or can I love that person in that particular genre? And I'm busy all day long. I'm busy watching for that. I figured out I don't have any time for criticism. I don't have any time for judgment. I don't have any time for looking at what's bad about people. I'm so busy watching for the good in people. It's changed my life.
Well, it had to have transformed your life a whole lot.
Absolutely.
Wow, that's amazing. Do you have a die and your book copy of your book sitting here so I can kind of hold it up and give people an idea what this is looking like?
There's the die. Those are the words. That's the time, service, gifts, touch. I think we got them all. 5 love languages, six sides on the die. This one surprised me. So on that day, you're just watching for any opportunity in those other 5 love languages, any opportunity to love.
That's beautiful. So, and do you have a copy of your book you can hold up too? Do you have it right there handy? I
have one of the journal, but I don't have the book handy.
So if you see that really cool look that he has, the book it has a journal that goes with it, and there's a die set that they can get with it as well, isn't there? Yeah, that's awesome. So what were you kind of explained how it works. As you began to apply it, did the anger start to just kind of go away? Do you have that as a constant in your face all the time, or is it now kind of like where you can find peace with your life and enjoy what life has before you?
So that's a really good question, Becky. So when you grow up in an abusive home and that's what's taught there. It seems like it's natural to be that way because you're taught it. And for that to go away, there has to be something to supplant it or something to replace that. And that's just working with love and watching for love opportunities really has been that supplanter. It's been that replacement behavior, so to speak, that has there's no desire at all. There are no flashpoints anymore. There's always opportunity now for just being kind and just watching for those opportunities and capitalizing on those opportunities and doing all I can to stay on the love side of the spectrum.
That's very cool because wow, life gets much better that way, doesn't it? In just getting through the days, your heart is filled with a certain amount of joy that you can get to that you have got to that point in your life that you can find the peace with, and the joy from being able to look at life in a whole different perspective.
It really is, Becky, and it's really kind of a happiness type of lifestyle. It's just these are happy moments that you're creating. They're happy for them because I just had an epiphany yesterday that everybody knows Cupid. Cupid has his little hearts and his little bow and arrow. But the thing about Cupid is that you never see yourself with love. This doesn't happen. It's always shooting away. And as I've found through this whole journey, I've found that that's all we have control over.
Right.
We only have control over giving love away. We can't bid it to come our way. That's still back to the manipulation, back to, well, I told you what my love language is. Why aren't you giving it to me? And right. you could create a whole pity party about that, of that type of thing. And that's not this at all. This is giving love without any expectation, except that it's the whole purpose of giving it away would be to heal them. And in the process of healing them, guess what happens?
You heal yourself, don't you?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Amazing. So what do you say would be the common barriers to embracing kind of the disruption and using tools such as this to create a better life?
I think that some people just like an idea that well, I'm a sarcastic person and I like knocking people's knees out from under and then watching their reaction and just people are like that. People like what they do. They like to be funny and they like to chop down people and they like to do it in a sarcastic but funny way, but it's still very demeaning, even in jest.
It cuts.
Even in jest, the cutting that happens out there, and it happens on the TV, it happens in the sitcoms, it happens because it happens there, it's happening in the home, and that shouldn't be. It just that I think that can be overcome. That's a barrier, though. The barrier is I don't want to overcome. That's my personality. That's who I am, and I'm not going to change. I'm old enough that I'm not going to change. And you get that type of excuse that people don't want to change because what would their friends think of them if they suddenly had a different, loving, kind personality?
Have more friends. I know an individual that he just thrives. He just thrives on cutting people down. And, everything is about him. He's right about everything. But man, is it cruel, some of the things that he does. And I tend to have nothing to do with them because I don't like to be treated that way.
Exactly. And it's that repelling. So I've heard a saying the other day that until the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change, you're not going to change.
Right.
So that pain of repelling people, that pain of driving people away, the pain of wondering, why don't I have any friends that are really close friends? that pain is an impetus that to propel somebody into change, into saying, I want to be more loving. I want to be more kind. I want to be more thoughtful. I want to be uplifting to people. I don't want to drag them down. I don't want to put them down.
But the key is they have to want that too
Correct.
in their life. Yeah.
So their own attitude would be a barrier as well. Their own attitude, well, I don't want to change. Exactly.
Right. And they think, I know some people feel like, that that's just who they are, and they, they're used to it, they're comfortable with it.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes stepping out of that comfort zone is more than they wish to do. So what advice would you give to somebody that struggles with positively shifting their life like this? And maybe they, the core, they're probably not too happy of individuals, and that's how it reflects on how they treat others. But maybe deep down, there's that emptiness.
Well, one thing that I've done, and I'm just going to show it to you right now, is I've carried a die in my pocket. You can see that the icons are still very visible, but I've carried this in my pocket for probably 8 years. And if I get to a point that I just need to have a little boost on loving, I'll just pull it out of my pocket and throw it, and just restart the day. I also talk to people about it, and talk to people that are having their own struggle of loving. Talk to them about the die and say, you know what, this has really helped me change my attitude about people, about loving people, and just wanting to be just more gentle in every regard. And so
that's excellent.
collect some tools. This by far for me has been the simplest, the cheapest investment ever for the huge return. For under $10, you can have a die, but the impact that's going to have on your life is going to be, you're going to do that ripple effect for generations and generations and generations. If you're my age, you've got children, you've got grandchildren, and in 10 years I might have some great grandchildren. This is a ripple effect. This is something that I decided to break those chains of abuse and change it all the way, all the way to the end of the spectrum.
It's that ripple effect that happens because you lead by example. And I think that for those of us that grew up in extremely abusive type of environments, sadness can often be your mode of operation. Mm-hmm. The anger and sadness, even when you're in your 60s, you're facing this, and it can become a pattern. So it's using something like this as a tool set to be able to switch that thing. And it takes conscious effort. It takes being willing to stick with it. It takes really wanting to live the life of a giver, because you are a giver when you decide to switch your mindset and your attitude and lead by example for those around us and for our offspring, for those that follow us.
Becky, for me, I don't think it was that very hard. I already had the desire, and so once you have the desire, the change really is not going to be that hard, not that difficult.
Right.
And so you're already. It's not like you're trying to avoid something. It's you're trying to do something, and you're trying to make this happen for you and for them. This is all about them. It's never about you. And once you can switch that, anger's about you. I'm upset, and because I'm miserable, I'm going to make you miserable too. That love's not like that. I'm feeling great about myself. I want you to feel great about yourself. Is how love looks at it.
And if we feel great about ourselves, and we love ourselves, it transforms everything, because if we don't love ourselves, that's how we treat others as well. But when we love ourselves and care enough to make those changes and be conscious, live each day with that intent, and then it's a ripple effect of amazing for others, because it is a beautiful thing to be able to stand up and say, I feel joy in my life. I feel really happy. I'm content,
Yep.
and to be able to know that you're impacting. How many times do we just simple things like going to a grocery store and actually looking at somebody in the eye and smiling at them, or holding the door for them, or something. There's something that, for sometimes it feels like the reaction is like total surprise. Why would you smile? But there's something fun and amazing that happens with that, so.
Absolutely. One other thing, Becky, I need to interject here is that when I decided that I wanted to go from where I was before to more loving, I had to do a kind of a check on my vocabulary. Just there are loving words, and then there's put down words, and then there's just demeaning words that you've got to change it up and really almost weigh the meaning of the word and find out, okay, I've got anger on this side, I've got love on this side. Which side of the spectrum does that vocabulary word fall on? Is it in the middle? Is it neutral? And then just kind of police yourself about what words you use, because there definitely is a vocabulary. Just think of the doctor's profession. Think of an attorney. They're in their professions, they have words that they use all the time. Some are good words and some are bad words, but it's nevertheless the language. When you learn the language of love, or all the languages of love, you'll learn how to and learn how to give that away. It's going to be so much easier to see it comes your way and react appropriately. But you've got to learn the language. You've got to learn how to give it away. And then your eyes will be opened.
Right. Absolutely. Well, for those that are listening, we have the links down here at the bottom. You can get the audiobook by clicking this link, and you can go to Paul's website and learn more about him. Follow him on Facebook. Take advantage, and in the stream that you have from where, if you're listening online, there is a link there, but you can just type in Paul Zolman Roll Up Love in Amazon, and you will find it. And take advantage of this beautiful book, whether you listen or you read it from off of your device, or you pick up that book, which is my favorite. Picking up a book and really feeling it, marking things that I want to really make an impact, and get that die. Get that die for that constant memory of really, really touching something that really even stops you in your tracks and makes you think about what you're doing in your life. What a beautiful conversation, Paul. This is wonderful.
Thank you so much, Becky. You're a beautiful person yourself.
Thank you. And congratulations that you brought this to the world. I think that people are doing so much in our world today to make an impact. And I talk to authors every day that I'm working with, and I'm always in awe of the many various ways that they're bringing their wisdom to the world. And yet we have such tool sets available now to get our message out far and wide in comparison to what it used to be. So what a privileged time we live in. And I feel totally privileged to have met somebody like you.
Well, thank you, Becky. You're very, very kind. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Well, we'll conclude our recording and our streaming today, but be sure and pick up a copy of Paul's book, whatever fashion that suits you. And congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky.
Stop recording. Stop.